to us. It's what's happening around inside us, right? The little boy thought he was at a carnival. The woman thought she was scared for her life, right? So the same thing was happening to two different people, but the responses were totally different, right? So everywhere you go, there you are, right? It's much more important to become comfortable with who you are and that self-discovery, right? That's what I'm really been living and working towards, is how do I discover myself better? And then how do I help other people towards self-discovery? Because if you can do that, right, if you can understand that why you are here, then a lot of bad things can happen externally and you're going to be okay with it, right? Because you're driven by a purpose. You're not going left, right, up and down because of the what around you. You have a why that's greater than any of those whats. And that'll make your days a lot easier, especially when the no's come.
No, I couldn't agree with you more on that. I think that's so important, is to be able to push through some of those no's, because your why is so great. Your purpose is so great. So you just touched on something I want you to get into. I think it's a nice segue, which is your podcast is called Grateful and Full of Greatness. I know you do a gratitude journal every day. I've heard you talk about this before. Where did that come from? Where did this idea of gratitude and becoming so important in your life?
I think that was a momentous endeavor as well. I would be making it up if I said one day I was like, I'm going to just choose to be grateful, right? Something that I teach alongside Doc Gilbert in applied sports psychology to graduate and undergraduates. And sometimes we'll just stop the class and we'll say, do 66 seconds of gratitude, right? And again, does everybody have 66 seconds? Yeah, you do. You do. And then I would like to bring in like the metaphors. If I said to a listener that it's proven that gratitude builds resilience. And if you have that little bit of time to think about what you're grateful for, then you could put on a shield every morning, and it would hold you off from getting sick. Right, here comes that leverage again, right? I'm raising rock bottom. I'm making sure that if you got to make inaction costly, right? You got to make inaction costly, right? Because that's a huge, huge catalyst in your life, right? Why wait for it to get so bad? But then again, it's this idea that it's harder to do something every so often. It's harder to do something every so often than it is to do every single day. It's easier to be consistent with the habits. And we all have habits, by the way. We just don't call them habits, right? Because somehow, some way, somebody thought that a habit was only a positive thing. No, that habits doesn't care, just like momentum doesn't care. So I think understanding that gratitude is the healthiest human emotion was huge for me. Understanding that it could, I see Brandon with the Whoop band on as well, that it could increase my heart rate variability, which has a lot to do with whether or not I get sick or increase my performance. Now I'm searching for reasons why to be grateful. And then the last little thing I'll say about it is the coolest thing is our brain can only think about one thing at a time, right? As much as we think it can think about a billion things, right? Yes, we do have a lot of thoughts, but if you can package more and more and more of those thoughts towards gratitude and thankfulness, then we can't be frustrated at the same time we're grateful. We can't be angry at the same time we're thankful, right? And the two things that really attack the human mind are fear and anxiety, right? And if you're always coming at those fear and anxiety and really or I should say fear and anger, and you're not doing anything about it, well, then momentum's going to take over for the negative. So I think I've made inaction more costly, and then I made it a little bit more habitual to, this is not a plug. I'm not sponsored by them, but I have the 5-minute journal, right? That really helps. What are the 3 things you're grateful for today? What are you looking forward today? And then an affirmation, right? And I have enough time. Everybody has enough time. If you don't have 5 minutes, now it takes me less than a minute. If I can't find 1 minute to better myself, then how do I expect to be better for others? Can't.
Yeah, no.
So Mark, what's interesting, it takes you less than a minute today. How was it? Did you find it difficult when you started to do the journaling?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's because we make these endeavors like swallowing the sun, right? And I know, how do you get up a mountain one step at a time? How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? You really have to get your mental health in order before we can focus on mental performance, right? So how do you get your mental health in order is do a bunch of easy tasks. I'll be blatantly honest with you, John and Brandon. There's times where I wake up and I'm not the guy you're seeing energized. I'm down. I'm human, right? I'm down. I did not have a good day. I had a really bad week. I had really devastating news to my inner circle. I'm just as susceptible to other things as well. But perhaps understanding that life's a strategy game and that I don't just have to talk about it, I can be about it sometimes, then yeah, I'll set 6 to 8 things to do that day. And one of those things will take a shower and brush your teeth. And then I'll strike that out and I'll say, let's go. What else can I do? What else can I do? Can I do this little task? Can I drink a bottle of water? Yeah, I can do that. And I'll see that as a major accomplishment. And when your mental health is not in order, you must do that, right? I'm a big advocate of doing something difficult daily, right? Doing something difficult daily. That is a mental performance side of things. You are not always going to feel like you're built like a brick and ready to go. What you do need to do is have that awareness, right? My number one element to excellence is awareness. If you have no idea where you've been, where you're at, or where you're going, then we have nothing else to talk about. That's first things first. So I think doing that kind of inner work that I talk about pretty esoterically, how do I do that? It's waking up and listening to my mind and body and my spirit, right? And understanding that I'm not in this fight alone. I'm not in this world alone, right? I just talked about some of my heroes, some of the things that I look forward to seeing every day and making them proud, right? I'm a very faith-filled guy, right? Because I understand that my actions are based upon my beliefs, and there's so many things outside of my control. At any given time, 10 things are in my control, but that means thousands are not, right? And who am I to think that I'm bigger than anything else, right? So to answer the question, sometimes it's a lot harder. And sometimes I'm just grateful for that next deep breath. But then those days when I'm ready to mentally perform, then I'm writing a big gratitude journal and I'm coming. And I think it's better to understand where you're at, having that awareness.
No, I think you're spot on there. The other thing that came to mind when you were talking about that is I was thinking about this. We're hearing more and more of this in the mental performance game now. Is this neutral thinking? Is when you're saying understanding that these bad things that have happened, right? Let's acknowledge that, but let's also acknowledge it has nothing to do with what's about to happen. It's not going to dictate to me that bad week you had, the bad day you had, the bad practice, the bad whatever experience you've just went through has no bearing on what's about to happen or what's going to happen in your future. And I think when you can get to that point, it's so important.
Yeah, here's a drastic story that comes to mind is these 2 twin brothers have an alcoholic father, right? And they grow up and one of them becomes an alcoholic and one of them never touches a sip of alcohol. And a reporter asked that first brother and he goes, "What happened to you? Why are you an alcoholic?" And he responds, "I watched my father." And the reporter went up to the other brother and he said, "What happened to you? Why have you not touched a sip of alcohol?" And he said, "I watched my father." Yeah. Same event, same experience. Responses are totally different, right? And I think I can rattle off 2 or 3 other stories just like that. But I think, that story might be apocryphal, meaning, is it true? Doesn't matter, right? It is true in some way to some person, right? And we all have those moments in our life where we can choose to be negative. It is so easy to be negative. It's very hard to be neutral and a positive thinker.
Yeah, that I've heard that story throughout my lifetime, Mark, a lot because my mom was the daughter of 2 alcoholics and had only one sibling who was also an alcoholic. But my uncle had ended up going through rehab and ended up spending a lifetime of helping drug rehabilitation, drug and alcohol rehabilitation. So really turned it around. But my mom never had a drink of alcohol in her entire life. And she used to always tell that story. It's the way she told it was somebody said, what the second person says, "What choice did I have? My dad was an alcoholic. What choice did I have?" Like, in other words, like who else, why wouldn't I have not had a drink the rest of my life? So tell me a little bit, and we didn't get into this and early on, but what was it that got you going down this road towards mental performance coaching? Your mission statement used to be, I assume it may may still be this is emergent excellence. What was that? Where did all that come from?
Yeah, thank you, and I'm sorry about that. And one of the things that I said about the last little answer that you gave us was I was listening to this Betty Ford webinar, and they talked about happiness being split up out of 100%, and it being 50% genetic, 10% life circumstance, and 40% intentional activity. So I don't want to give away the fact that there is a lot of genetics at play. And I'm sorry about that in your family, but that is a big thing. And I think the main focus is you can't do anything about your genetics, even though it is an influence, and you can do something about the intentional activity. Getting to your second question, or the main question here, is a lot about that 10%. I'm very vulnerable and open in talking about it now, but it was a very dark time when I was 18 years old. I had just come off North Jersey Player of the Year and set the point record as an attackman in high school for lacrosse. And I was on better pace that in my senior year to do even better than my junior year. And then I got a stress fracture in my L2, L4 that put me in a hard brace from my pecs to my tailbone. I was on the ground next to my bed. Couldn't be in my bed because my spondylosis needed to be straightened out. But there was a lot of tears in that time. 6 months, 24/7 in that hard brace. 2 or 3 months into it, my mom gets diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoma. She's now beaten it, but and working with cancer patients and cancer survivors, so I'm very proud of her. But the point is I went through a lot at a very young age, 17, 18 years old. So I had to figure it out. And when I really was making the transfer from financial services, because I graduated Yale with an economics degree and did 2 years on Wall Street, I was pulled towards this. To me, this is not a profession. This is something I'm completely enthralled and obsessed with. And I think more people need to and should have the answers that I didn't have when I was 17 and 18 years old. And it's very real when I get caught up talking about it, right? Because I remember it, right? And I brought up that story about me putting weight on because that stuck with me. I always say it's easy to forget a motivational speaker that comes to your school. It's hard to forget when your mom's going through it and you are going through it as a young boy. It stuck with me. It made me pay attention to my strength and conditioning at a very young age. And indirectly, I was writing down, journaling negative energy out of me, right? So I took that shook up soda can, if you will, and I was pouring out negative energy so I didn't burst over on anybody else or myself. And then I was doing that visualization. If and when I ever get out of this brace, I am coming. Give me my legs back, give me my legs back and see what happens. And when it did happen, it's like the adage, right? When I could walk, I ran, right? And I'm really proud of the strength and conditioning awards I won at Yale, but they happened on purpose, Anybody thinks they happen by accident, I want to talk to them because everybody has that flame. Right. It's something really, really obvious, right? That we all have that little thing, and maybe some are duller than others, right? You can see those people that are on fire, right? But there's a story about when God's talking to his angels and he goes, I have this biggest prized possession. Where should I put it? And one of the angels says, put it at the bottom of the ocean. They'll never find it. And God says, are you kidding me? With the technology these days, they'll find it. And then another angel speaks up and says, put it on the top of the highest mountain. And he says to the angel, you're underestimating that of a human being, right? They'll go to any peak to find it. I know where I'll put it. I'll put it right inside them. They'll never find it there. And I think that's a lot about what I've been talking about is do the uncomfortable inner work because that's where the answer lies. Once you understand that your eyes are a beautiful thing, they're going to help you see the world. Right. But sometimes it takes closing your eyes to find the most beautiful vision that you'll ever have is what you should do with your life. Right. Sorry to get philosophical here, but you open something in my life.
Keep it coming.
It really set me on this trajectory. And yes, I was pulled into different directions, probably by society or my academia. And that's OK. Right. Maybe I'll go back to it at some point, but I doubt it because I know why I'm here. I know why I'm here. It's to understand, learn, teach, and preach what we're talking about. It's to understand this mental game and holistic health and performance at the highest level, and then help others find out who they're supposed to be as well.
So Mark, I